We can talk now to Dr. Will Martin in Sheffield, who's the co-founder of the UK Cladding Action Group. Thanks very much for being with us. I think the Labour Party are estimating 56,000 people are still living in homes with unsafe cladding. Does that sound a sort of correct kind of estimate as far as you're concerned?
Well, that's actually just for, I think, for ACM, which is exactly the same as Grenfell. I think the number's actually a lot higher, up to 500,000 people in all types of dangerously clad buildings. So the problem is huge in this country. And
since Grenfell, in those 3 years, what has actually been done in terms of cladding? We talked about it so much in the months after the disaster, but much less talk about it recently. Where are we with cladding?
Well, we're 3 years on and we've still got 2,000 unsafe buildings in the UK. Things have happened, funds have been released, but the pace of remediation has been far too slow. You know, there are so many people living in these unsafe buildings. It's unacceptable that 3 years on, we're still talking about this issue and people are still having to go to bed every single night in unsafe buildings.
Why has it been so slow then? Is it a lack of political will? What do you think's the reason?
I think the government have dragged their heels and not wanted to accept that there are many different types of cladding that are dangerous, and they've only slowly begun to realise and grasp how big a problem this is. Obviously, there's the financial impact and costs that this costs, but you can't put a cost on life. All buildings need to be made safe, and they've dragged their heels on this. They've refused to acknowledge the problem, and they continue to do so.
Well, you say they've refused to acknowledge the problem. I want to read you a statement from the British government, if I may, and it says, Grenfell was a devastating tragedy. We're determined to ensure it can never happen again. And that is why we are providing £1.6 billion to ensure that unsafe cladding is removed from high-rise buildings as soon as possible. And we're also bringing forward the biggest legislative changes to building safety in a generation. So it doesn't sound like they're doing nothing.
Sure. Well, on Friday, a cross-party select committee report found that £15 billion was going to be needed to fix this problem. The government themselves have said that the £1 billion safety fund that was released in March won't be enough to cover more than 2/3 of the buildings that are affected. And it's currently operating on a first-come, first-served basis. So that means that 2/3 of people, if they don't get their acts together and apply in time, and that's not their responsibility, that's the building's responsibility, they'll miss out on funding. So steps have been made, but cross-party people are saying, you know, across the parties, they're saying that more needs to be spent on this.
All right, good to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming on. That's Dr. Will Martin there in Sheffield, co-founder of the UK Cladding Action Group.